Movies and television shows will always lead you to believe that you will have one final opportunity to have a conversation with your loved one who's dying from cancer before they cross over to the other side, and through that you will get the closure you need to move forward with your life. When my family learned on January 3rd, 2016 that my mom would likely die from her brain cancer within weeks, the thought that I wouldn't be able to talk to her near the end didn't even enter my mind as a possibility. Had it, I would have gone back to Kansas immediately instead of waiting a couple weeks to go for her birthday, which is what my dad suggested. In a previous video I uploaded, I explained that this was my biggest regret from my time as a primary caregiver for my mom because I wasn't able to be there with her when she received the news from her oncologist that she was going to die from her cancer. She got that alone in a hospital room. But also me waiting as long as I did also meant that I missed the window of opportunity to have one real final conversation with my mom because when I arrived on January 20th, all she could really say was yes, no, and love you, which is documented in my book, Losing Linda May, A Cancer Caregiving Memoir. And as grateful as I was to have heard those words, especially because I was worried that she was mad at me for not coming home sooner, I was heartbroken that we couldn't actually talk to each other. I had been warned that she was declining quickly. The last phone call that I had with her was on January 10th, but by the 17th, my sister told me that she was only really able to say words. But I was holding out for hope that my arrival would spark more, like what you see in movies when someone is practically comatose, but they spring back to life right before they pass and they can have that final conversation. In this case, though, biology made that an impossibility. Like she had decayed so much that her vocal cords weren't working. So even if she did want to communicate with me, she physically couldn't. Once again, I never considered that this was a possibility because I didn't know how my mom would actually die from her cancer. From November 5th, when we learned that her brain cancer had relapsed again, to December 26th, when I last saw her, she hadn't gotten significantly worse, despite the fact that we now know that the cancer was still replicating within her, despite her being on the experimental trial. So I couldn't wrap my mind around how the cancer could just fully take over her body in such a short span of time and kill her. I now know that people die from blood cancers because the disease infiltrates the bone marrow and impacts red blood cell production. It can cause hemorrhaging around the body. It can get into the organs and cause them to fail. It can reduce the immune system to the extent that even a minor infection can end a life. And of course, when people stop eating and drinking, it just expedites everything. But it's also unpredictable. There is no way to say with any certainty how someone's death will occur. For this reason, you should not wait to be with your loved one and have the conversations that you want to have. Don't let anyone or anything hold you back because you may miss your chance and you will live the rest of your life like I am with unanswered questions or things you just really needed to hear from your loved one last time. And if you're watching this and happen to have a terminal cancer diagnosis, be proactive. I know your body is failing you and you're contending with a lot, but take the time that you can to provide your loved ones with something that they can hold on to when you're gone and also something that will give them closure. For example, my mom intended to write handwritten notes for all of her loved ones and also distribute all of her jewelry to the women in her life, but she waited too long and she no longer was able to write, and then she was no longer able to speak. A perfect example of someone with cancer who gave a lot of thought about their loved ones is documented in the memoir Did I Ever Tell You by Genevieve Kingston. Her mom wrote her letters and picked out gifts for decades worth of birthdays and also major milestones in her life. Obviously, this is far beyond what most can and will do, and no one should think less of loved ones who are dying if they're not thoughtful in this way, but I desperately wish I had more closure with my mom and something from her that I could return to throughout the rest of my life, which could have been received before she was in hospice care. So learn from my mistakes and don't wait to have important conversations. In the next video I'll be releasing on January 23rd, I'll be talking about the difference between experiencing a drawn-out death versus an unexpected death. So hit subscribe, leave any questions in the comments. The link to my book, Losing Linda May, is in the description, and I will see you all on the 23rd.